I currently have a pretty average number of physical TBR books, but that doesn't mean some of these books haven't been on the shelf longer than necessary. At the beginning of each month's episode, I will use a random number generator to select the book that will be read. The hope is that the first book I pick will be the one to start off that episode. However, I will be allowing myself 2 chances to maneuver around the shelf in the hopes of finding that first book to read. I'm so excited. Yeah, that's convincing enough, to get some of these physical books cleared off of this TBR shelf, so get ready to read or reap. We're up to 130 books on the shelf now. I did add a couple. So I haven't made a lick of progress in clearing out any of these books. In fact, we went up from the start of January, we went up 3 books. So we're at 130. So I have my random number generator here. 11. All right. So that's probably going to be on the first shelf. So let me see what book number 11 is. The 11th book was Kiss of Steel by Beck McMaster. I have read Beck McMaster's Legends of the Storm series and really, really loved it. And I haven't read any of her other books. So the prompt for this one was easy. It said, read this book. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with this book. I think this is like a steampunk romance, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm going to give it a shot. I think I can get the audio of this through Everand, so that might make it a little easier to get through. So that's what we are starting off episode 2 of Read or Reap with. I really hope that this isn't going to be a trend where the first book in every Read or Reap episode ends up being a DNF, but so far we're 2 for 2 because I have DNF'd Kiss of Steel by Beck McMaster. So I thought that this was a steampunk romance. It is not. No, it is a historical paranormal romance with vampires. So we're following this young woman named Honoria. I can't remember what time this is set in, but it's set in London. And she's very poor, and she's just trying to get by. And in this version of London, like, vampires have taken over, and like people become infected and they turn into vampires or whatnot. So she is trying to keep her family, her and her siblings, alive, and they're not doing well. So she ends up catching the eye of this man named Blade, who is... he's a vampire who's fighting his urges, I guess. He's trying not to succumb to like the darker parts of being a vampire. Like, he does drink blood and all that jazz, so he's a vampire, but he's trying to be like a decent vampire. And he offers her up sanctuary, his protection, because he protects like the... sorry if you can hear that, my dishwasher's going. But he offers her up sanctuary and his protection if she will agree to be one of his blood letters, I guess. And, you know, through being forced together, they end up in a romance, I guess. So I made it to chapter 7, page 114, right there. And I just was not connecting with these characters. There wasn't a whole lot going on in this world. At 100 pages, like, all they were doing was... she's poor and he's protecting her, and when she goes out to do something to get money for her family, he sends somebody after her to like keep an eye on her, and now she's agreeing to be his like blood supply. But nothing was happening. Like, I couldn't tell you what the plot of this is. The male main character, Blade, he was also kind of rude to her. He would just say stuff that wasn't the nicest to her, and anytime she was talking, he would just be like, shut up, stop talking, or I told you not to do that. And it just didn't come across very romantic to me. At 100 pages, me not being invested, I just don't want to continue on. So this is gonna be another reap, and we're gonna move on to picking the next book. So we're up to 127 books now on this shelf. We're right back to where I started at the beginning of January. Let me ask Alexa to pick me a number between 1 and 127, and we will go from there. Alexa, can you pick me a number between 1 and 127? She chose 87. So let me figure out what book number 87 is. That book ended up being Bacchus by Dahlia Rose, and the prompt for this one says 5 books next. So let me go 5 more books on the shelf and see what that one ends up being, and hopefully that'll be the one that I read for this next section. Okay. This wasn't the book I was wanting to read at the moment, but this one says, read this book, and it is the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Everybody likes it. At least you found it. So many people don't know that that's a book. Thank you. Stay warm. I got 2 packages. Ah. Let's open them and see what I got. So this is exciting. I created merch for my Black Hat Book Coven through Bonfire, and these are what I got. I am nervous to see how they turned out, but I'm hoping they turned out cute. Please turn out cute. Oh, that's so cute. Okay, so I got me a pink hoodie, and it just has that on it. It says Black Hat Book Coven, History of Hexes and Cozy Curses. Oh, that turned out way cuter than I thought it was going to. And then I just got the same thing on a gray t-shirt. Oh, well, now that I know that those turned out cute, I can officially link it down below. So if you follow my Black Hat Book Coven, if you like witchy reads and you would like to support my book club, or you just want a cute little witchy shirt, please be sure to check out that down below. You can order one off Bonfire. So yay, I'm so excited that those turned out cute. And then the other thing I got was my Owl Crate box of the month. Let me get some scissors. I think this is the Owl Crate adult box. I got off the adult waitlist for Owl Crate. Because I'm still on the young adult, but I haven't been like loving the young adult picks. So I was gonna give the adult subscription a shot. And we're gonna see. I think I know what book this is. I think it's Watermoon. Ooh, I like this cover already. I don't think Owl Crate does the best at customization on books, but there have been some editions where I prefer the Owl Crate edition to like the Fairy Loot edition. But look at this cover. That is gorgeous. I love that. The back, I'm still not looking at the edges. I've decidedly not. And then, okay, I can't see those fucking edges, but there's the edges for you to see. Ooh, those are pretty. Okay, Owl Crate, I think this is probably the prettiest freaking edition I've gotten. Okay, let's see what the, ooh, I like these end papers. Oh, damn. This is a really pretty fucking edition. Art style. They're the same on both sides. I think it has something to do with a pawn shop. Yeah, a pawn shop that appears out of it. It's like, it reminds me of sort of like Caravel, but with a pawn shop, like a pawn shop that changes locations and whatnot. I'll add that right back to the shelf, and we're gonna be back up to 127. I'm just not making much progress here, y'all, but my goodness, I am a sucker for moons, so I do like that. Okay, well, I finished reading the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and as much as I know about Egypt, I can tell you I had no freaking clue what the Book of the Dead was. So this is actually like a summary or an overview really of this papyrus known as the Papyrus of Ani, which is one of the largest or one of the longest like papyrus scrolls that depicts a Book of the Dead. So apparently in ancient Egypt, there wasn't just one Book of the Dead. The Book of the Dead was something that anybody could have commissioned to put in their tombs. So there were multiple versions of the Book of the Dead, and what it consists of are like hymns, spells, prayers, things like that to help the person traverse into past Duat and into the field of reeds, basically Egyptian heaven. So this wasn't the easiest thing to read because it reminded me a lot of reading the Bible. It was a lot of these, thou's, thou haveth, things like that, because it was literally going through this Papyrus of Ani that this man had commissioned for his death, and it was explaining like all of the gods and goddesses in the picture shown, but it was also like transcribing all the hieroglyphs, and that is what the hieroglyphs were, or spells and hymns and things like that to help the person into their afterlife. But I found the thing that I enjoyed most about this was just like learning like what all the depictions of the characters mean and how that translates into a person traveling through their afterlife and such like that. Everything with the hieroglyphs, the prayers and the hymns and the spells, some of them were funny. Other of them, I'm not gonna lie, I skimmed a lot because of the thou haveth. It was just a lot of talk that it's not how my brain talks, and so it's very difficult to keep on track with all that. But I did learn something from this. I learned about the Papyrus of Ani. I learned that there are multiple versions of the Book of the Dead, and this was something that like wealthy people would commission. They would have like a scribe create them a Book of the Dead, and it would be put in their sarcophagus with them so that their soul could have a sort of book to help them traverse the afterlife, which is interesting. So this is a very beautifully designed book. I believe this is silk, I read somewhere, and I'm a very textual person, so I just found myself like doing this all the time. So it's like very hard to give this a rating because like it's literally transcribing this scroll of somebody's afterlife, and it's pretty much like taking spells and worships and prayers and things like that from the ancient Egyptians and the ancient Egyptian gods and putting it into English form. So like how do I rate that? I rate based on enjoyment. And did I have fun reading this? Not really. So I think I'm ultimately going to give this like a 3-star rating because it was fine. I learned some things. It was interesting. I really liked the depictions and how it told me what certain images were about. So, you know, it's middle of the road. It wasn't amazing. I didn't enjoy it, but I also didn't hate my time with it, and it's not the worst thing I've ever read. So, yeah, 3 stars for that. I actually just went through my shelf and I was like making sure that all of these books are books I want to read, and I actually took one off because I was like, I don't really want to read that. So we're at 126 books now. So let's hope I don't get any more books in the mail and I can actually start to make progress. All right, so I have my random number generator here. Let's go 1 to 126. Get you a little closer. 49. And I know what book that is because I know where book 50 is. So 49 is going to be this guy. Reign of Night by Sarah C. Rothel. The prompt on this one says read this book. And I really don't want to read this book right now. So I'm going to read the book next to it on the shelf, which is going to be Rhapsodic by Laura Thalassa. This one also says read this book, so that's what we're going to go with because this is a much thinner book and I have been wanting to read this book. I don't really know a lot about this book other than there's like a girl who has a bargain with like a fae or something. That's literally all I know. So I am going to start reading this, and hopefully maybe I will give you an update when I make progress in it. Who knows, it may be when I finish, but this will be the next book that I read. Okay, well, I really wanted to give you an update when I got about halfway through Rhapsodic here. Unfortunately, I suck at giving updates, and I've already finished this book. So this, I didn't really know a whole lot about it before I went into it, but this is about a young woman named Calypso who was like brutally raped by her stepfather as a kid into her teen years. And when she's 16 years old, she fights back and she ends up killing him, but she lives in this world with magic, and so she calls up this bargainer to help her. And so this bargainer takes care of her stepfather. And as time continues, she keeps making deals with this fae, who is the bargainer, to just be part of his life, to interact with him and things like that, because she is insanely attracted to him. And she figures that if she keeps making like deals and bargains with him, that it will keep him in her life longer. But you know, she's like 16, 17. But fast forward a few years, at the beginning of this book, it's like 7 years later, she's in a relationship with this alpha werewolf guy. And suddenly, the bargainer reappears in her life after having been gone for 7 years. And suddenly, he is looking to cash in on some of the debts that she owes him. She has like these beads on her wrist, like permanent beads on her wrist for every bargain that she made with him, and there were like 322 or something like that. So she's got a lot of debts to repay him. And he wants her help because there's something sinister going on in like the Fae realm or something, where like these women are going missing, but like they keep being sent back dead, but with babies in these coffins, and these children are very evil like children or whatnot. And so he wants her help to try and figure that out. Meanwhile, we learn more about their relationship, because this has a back and forth plot line where we're following her in the here and now, but every other chapter it'll go back to the past, to when she was 16, 17, and see their relationship evolve and all that. So I'm going to give this book 3 stars. It was fine. I don't think it did anything exceedingly unique or anything like that. I did like the relationship development that we see with these characters. We see them throughout her, from the time she's 16 to 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. However, I didn't really like the fact that he interacted with her while she was 16, because you can definitely see there is this romantic element between them, and they are both insanely attracted to each other while she's at like this boarding school thing. And that just didn't... I hate reading about teenagers in age gap relationships. I hate it. And he is like this century years old immortal, and he's like spending time with this 16-year-old, blah 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 blah. And I'm just like, really? Ew. I also didn't love the back and forth timeline in this story. Apparently there are some stories where I am like super connected with the characters, I can move past that. In this one, it wasn't something that I was able to get past and just let go and let myself enjoy it, because I wasn't that connected with these characters. I didn't feel a very strong chemistry between them, and add that in with like this just being a pretty generic fantasy romance, it just wasn't adding to anything. So I also started reading this book like physically for the first like 100 pages, and then I was finally able to get the Hoopla audiobook, so I switched to that. But in the 100 pages, the writing style of this was very... I wasn't the biggest fan of it. It was very like simplistic, and it was almost short sentences like, he stopped by, period. We went here, period. Period. And it's just like, it almost felt like reading a children's book because of the way it was written. So I didn't love that either. So it wasn't horrible by any means. I got through it relatively quickly. And I think if you are somebody new to fantasy romance, this might be a good place to start because it wasn't at all very like in depth with the world building or anything like that. This is a very character driven story for the vast majority of this book. We're just seeing Callie and the bargainer get to know each other and rekindle their relationship that they had. There's that plot with like the women and the children, but it is spread very sparsely throughout this book until like the end of it where certain things pick up in action. This is the start of a series, so if you are somebody new to fantasy romance, here you go. This also doesn't have a lot of spice to it. I would say this has about 1.5 chili peppers worth of spice. So I would say this is definitely a good place to begin, but if you have already read like ACOTAR and any number of other fated mate romances, this is going to be a very bland story. Oh, and one more thing that really irritated me about this is he's known as the bargainer, right? But she knows his name. And she mentions it constantly throughout, but she will alternate between referring to him as his name or the bargainer. And even when they're alone together, she will switch out which way she calls him. I'm like, you know his name. I know his name. Why are you continuing to call him the bargainer in these situations? I don't know, it really kind of annoyed me. But 3 stars, it wasn't bad, but this is going to be one again that gets reached from my collection because I just wasn't connected with these characters enough to care about how their story progresses. So with that, we're going to move on to the next book. And instead of picking a random number, there is a very specific book that I want to read. I have it right here. Hold on, let me grab it. Ugh. So as I do, I have been like scrolling through reels and I ended up getting sucked into the Anna Wong reelverse. I watched like 2 reels of the Twisted series and now that's all Instagram is feeding me. And it really got me wanting to like either reread the first 2 books in the Twisted series. But then I remembered that I have King of Wrath. So this is like a interconnected series with the Twisted series. Characters get mentioned in the Twisted series that are in the King of Sin series, which I have not started yet. And because I've been being bombarded with Twisted reels, I'm also being bombarded with, of course, these reels as well. So I really just want to continue on with this. I want to get lost in these characters again. So I'm going to start reading this. And I have high hopes for this. I am expecting to love this. And I really hope I do. Because so far in this little project, I have not kept a single book that I have read off of my shelves. They've all been reaped. So be a good one, Anna Wong. Be a good one.
Feels like love. Cupid made a shot straight into my heart. Now I'm falling fast and my world's expanding. Feels like love. Even though we're kinda nervous, together we'll be strong. I don't know for sure, all I know. Didn't know what hit me when we started. I was shaking electric, trying to stay calm and collected. On that summer afternoon, you were shining like a gem in the sunlight. We were out until midnight, yeah. You said, do you wanna go out sometime? I said, girl, you read my mind. Oh, yeah. Then came the rush of butterflies, trembling and building up from deep inside. Feels like love. Cupid made a shot straight into my heart. Now I'm falling fast and my world's expanding. Feels like love. Even though we're kinda nervous, together we'll be strong. I don't know for sure, all I know.
am back for yet another update where I'm done with the book. I swear to God, I would love to be one of those people who could give you updates halfway through the book, but sometimes I just don't fucking feel like talking when I'm in the middle of a book. So I just got out of the shower. I got all fresh. I've been feeling very, like, disgusting lately. My face is just breaking out. I have low energy. I've been having cramps. It's just not been a great time. So I finally finished this book and I've got thoughts. I will say, we finally have a winner. I gave this book 5 stars. I devoured the Twisted series by Anna Wong. When I first read it, Love and Games are my 2 favorite of that series. But I never, like, moved on to, like, the Interconnected series, the King of Sin series? King of Sin series. In this, we're following Dante Russo, who is, like, a billionaire, of course. Of course he is. And he is being blackmailed. Well, actually, his brother is being blackmailed. His brother ends up in, like, a precarious situation. And, this man, Vivian's father, like, catches photos of him in this situation, and he tells Dante that if he doesn't marry his daughter, that he will release these pictures that could end up getting his brother killed. So he agrees to enter into this arranged marriage. Actually, it's more like an arranged engagement at this point, because they don't actually end up married right away. Like most arranged marriage, they enter into, like, this engagement period where they have to live together and, you know, get to know one another. But he agrees to do this. Meanwhile, in the background, he's, like, trying to figure out how to take down her father for blackmailing him. So Vivian has no freaking clue about this. She just has expected to be put in an arranged marriage by her family for the longest time. So she's like, okay, well, this was bound to happen anyway. So Dante Russo, he seems like a jackass, but I could do a lot worse. So they end up in this relationship. They start to get to know one another. He slowly starts to like her more than he did in the beginning, because he just thought she was part of this family whose father was blackmailing him. So she obviously had to be, like, the same, right? But they end up falling in love, of course. But, you know, she ends up finding out that he was only in this relationship because he was being blackmailed. And he ends up realizing that she didn't know, but she is somebody who does what her parents continuously tell her to do. So they have that dynamic. But I freaking love the character dynamics. I don't know how Anna Wong writes characters that have so much depth to them and so many layers to them when they would normally be cliche characters. Her spice is great spice. Like, anytime I've read an Anna Wong book, her spice is top tier. It's not, like, overly done, but it's definitely spicy. And once they reach the point in their relationship where the spice hits, it hits good. I listen to this on audio. I really like the audio narrations of these audiobooks because they are duet narrated. So, like, when it's the woman's point of view and the guy has a line, the guy actually talks. I really love when audiobooks do that. I love Dante's over-the-top possessiveness and his groveling that he has to do to try and win her back when they have their little come to Jesus moment. I really loved this book, and because I freaking loved this book, I've also already finished the other 3 books in this series. I binge read Wrath, Pride, Greed, and Sloth. Envy comes out later this year, which I just found out. But yeah, once I get sucked into Anna Wong's characters, like, they don't let me go, and I have to read all their stories. So this one got a 5-star from me. What did the other ones get? Pride got 3.5 stars from me. I'll talk about more about it in my like monthly wrap up, but that one got 3.5 stars. Greed got 5 stars, and Sloth got 5 stars. So I really, really enjoy Anna Wong's series. And I like that you see characters that were even in the Twisted series make appearances throughout this series as well, because they're interconnected. So you get like glimpses of how those characters are doing without them being the stars of the show. But yeah, I'm so happy we finally got a freaking winner in this Read or Reap. So I read this and I will be keeping this, and I plan to like get the other books in the series as well. Even though I read the audiobooks, I still like to own like the physical copies of the books that I enjoy. So that being said, it is now time to pick the next book. And I have a feeling that this is just gonna put me in like a hangover, because all I really want to do is reread this book. And like Sloth as well. I really want to reread Sloth too, because I liked that one. But we cannot just continuously keep reading the same books over and over. We need to make progress. So I did end up DNFing a couple more books on this shelf that I tried to give a shot. I will talk about that at the end of the episode. But as of now, we are up to 122 books on this shelf. So looky there. We made huge progress with me DNFing some books that I didn't even get far enough into to talk about. So let me ask Alexa to pick me a number between 1 and 122 and see what's going to be read next. Alexa, can you pick me a number between 1 and 122? Six. She really likes choosing these books that are on the first shelf, so let me see what book number 6 is. So the 6th book was Composite Creatures, and the prompt for that was 2 books before. So let me go 2 books back and see what that book is, and hopefully it'll be the one that I read next. That book ended up being Elysium Girls, and this prompt said read the next book, but I actually want to get this book off my shelf, so I am actually going to choose to read this one. I've read one other book by this author, Kate Pentecost, I think last year, and it was just fine. I don't really know anything about this book. I can't remember what it's about. I think it's set in Oklahoma. Yeah, it's set in Oklahoma, which intrigues me because I also lived in Oklahoma, and it's got a horse on it that looks like a robot horse. So other than that, couldn't tell you what this book is about other than it's YA. So I'm going to try and find the audiobook of this to listen to, but hopefully I will give you an update on this next. Yeah, this isn't going to work. I've already DNF'd this at chapter 2. Within the first 2 chapters, it's historical. It's like alternate history historical. It's set in like the 1930s to the 1940s in Oklahoma. And I guess these gods come in and invade, and they kill off all the people, and they tell this town of Elysium that they have like 10 years to build this town and run it in a way that pleases them, or else they're going to kill them. So at the 2nd chapter, we just start off with this girl who, she just seems very young adult. And this is a young adult book. So, you know, I expected that. But this just read a little lower on the young adult scale than what I wanted. It also just had a lot of different interesting things thrown in it. And I think if you try to do something interesting and different, you need to simplify it. You need to pick an avenue and you need to go down that avenue. Instead of just throwing in a bunch of different interesting things that overwhelm and make no sense. Because not only are there gods who are running the show in this world, there's like these different creatures, and there's these different like factions within the society, very Divergent-esque. And this girl, you know, she prophesied something that never came true, and so people shunned her for it, so she's on the run and all this stuff. And I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care. And I'm only at the end of chapter 2. Plus, it has been a week since I picked this book up. And I would sit down and I'd be like, okay, I want to read. So I read a chapter. And then a couple days went by and I'm like, okay, I need to continue reading that book. So I picked up again and I finished the 2nd chapter. And then a few more days went by and I was like, I have no desire to pick up this book. And that tells me I need to DNF it. So that'll be a reap. I will be getting rid of that. which means there are now 121 books on this shelf. So let's ask Alexa to pick me a new random number. Alexa, can you pick me a number between 1 and 121? She chose 69. Okay, let me figure out what 69 is. I mean, I know what 69 is, but let's find the book, shall we? That'd be funny if it correlated to a romance. How about that? It did land on a romance. It landed on Mr. Fixer-Upper by Lucy Score, but the prompt on this says 5th shelf, 9th book. Do I have 5 shelves? 1, 2, 3, 4. I do. I have a few books down here on my 5th shelf, as you can see. We got one whole shelf cleared off already, so this is my 5th shelf. So let me find the 9th book. Ooh, the last book on that shelf. And that one said, read this book, and that is Phantasma. So this is a book that I have been wary on because I've heard mixed things about it, but I have heard that it is compared to Carvel. It's like the adult Carvel. So I'm going to give this a try. I'm here with an update. Finally. I am about almost 100 pages. I'm 94 pages into Phantasma. And I'm struggle busting. I really wanted to give this a try because I like Caraval so much. But in the first 100 pages, like, nothing much has happened. She just entered into the estate, the castle, Phantasma, whatever the frick it is. She just entered into it and she met like this guy named, what is his name? Blackwell, who I'm assuming is going to be the love interest, and he's like, I'm assuming he's a phantom. Maybe. I don't know. He's some sort of ghost, I'm guessing. But in the first 100 pages, like, nothing really happened. I don't like this female main character. What is her name? Ophelia. I am not liking her character. She's supposed to be, she has a younger sister, Genevieve, who's 21, and she's supposed to be the older sister. But she feels like she's 16. She reads like she's 16, the things she says and thinks, it's just very YA feeling. I actually connected more to Genevieve than I did Ophelia. And it's just, it's not grabbing my attention. But I am going to continue on reading it for a little while longer. I want to get into the actual, like, competition of this and see if maybe the trials or tasks or whatever she has to do spark some sort of interest. I swear if I get 100 more pages in and I'm not vibing with it, I'm going to DNF it, because why is this book so freaking long? Like, it's not even that long, honestly. I feel like it's only like 400 and something pages. Right? Yeah, it's about 500 pages. It's 493 pages or something. And that doesn't seem like that long, but my God, me struggle busting through 100 pages. It's been about 5 days since I started reading this, and I've only gotten to 100 pages. I, like, pick it up and I'm like, okay, I really need to read at least one more chapter. And this is as far as I've gotten. I don't have high hopes, okay? If the next clip you see is me saying I DNF'd this, don't be surprised. She's wearing the same shirt. This can't be good. Y'all, I don't want to be this bitch who just DNFs everything, but I can't help it, okay? I know it can't be me because I'm reading other books that I'm really actually enjoying. But I made it that far, okay? You cannot tell me that I didn't give this book a shot. I am at 184 pages. She's gone through 2 levels already. And I'm not into it. The levels of these trials just are not that fascinating to me. They seem very, I don't know, they don't even seem dangerous when she's doing them. Like, nothing is, like, making me, oh my God, is she gonna make it out? Even though I know she's gonna make it out because she's the main character. Like, nothing is gripping me. I've met the love interest, and I don't know, he could be great. I don't know, but I haven't really gotten a sense of him. I can tell I don't feel any chemistry between them, and I still just don't like her character. So I could push through this and come back with an update for you and be like, oh yeah, I give this 2 stars, 3 stars, but I don't want to. I don't want to push through this just for the sake of giving you an update on a book that I'm not enjoying. So I'm going to DNF this one too, okay? We're going to reap it from my collection. Sorry, Crystal, that I didn't enjoy this. I gave it a shot though, okay? You cannot tell me I didn't give it a shot at almost 200 pages. Yeah, so let's pick another book, shall we? I need to recount how many books are on my shelf because I did add one. Let me show you. Ugh. I just got my January fairy loot, which is Cruel is the Light, a YA fantasy romance about demons and demon hunters, demons and exorcists. That's all I know. So I need to add a sticky note to this and then add it to the shelf. So I need to recount how many books are up here, add a note to this, and then I will be right back. So there are 121 books now back on the shelf. So let me ask Alexa to pick me a number. Alexa, can you pick me a number between 1 and 121? 60. 58, 59, 60. That one is A Coup of Tea, and the sticky note wasn't sticking to the cover, so I had to put it inside, and it says 4 books back. So let's go 4 books backward. 1, 2, 3, 4, which is the second book in this series. So I'm going to have to start with this one. Next attempt to read a book is going to be In the Land of Liddell, which is a light novel, I believe. I literally know nothing about this series. I think it's about a girl who like falls into a dream and she ends up in this fantasy world of like a movie or a cartoon that she's always watched or something like that, and she becomes one of the characters. I don't know. It was a complete cover buy, okay? And I also got the second book not even knowing if I'm gonna like this or not. So please, please, please let me enjoy this. Let me at least enjoy the first book. That's all I hope for. Because if I could get both of these, that would get 2 books off my shelf. But let's just hope I don't DNF it. Please, for the love of God, don't let me DNF it. So, I started reading In the Land of Liddell, and I had no idea what this book was about. Okay? I vaguely remembered picking up book 2 while I was on my road trip a couple years ago for my birthday, and I was stopping at a bunch of indie bookstores. I think I stopped at the Book Table in Illinois, and I saw this cover. And I thought, oh my God, that's such an adorable cover. And I remember having read the synopsis, and I thought it was about a girl who, she like got sucked into a book or a movie that she enjoyed, and she became one of the characters in it. And that's all I could remember. It had been a couple of years. I haven't read the synopsis since. So I had picked up book 2 because I liked the cover and I didn't want to forget about it. And then I had ordered book 1 from Amazon. So this is not about a girl who gets sucked into her favorite book or movie. No. This is actually about a girl who is on life support, and her family or somehow she gets like plugged into this virtual reality game, I guess. And when there's a blackout in the hospital, she gets stuck in this game. So her body is essentially dead, she thinks. And she is now her avatar within this game. And I'm not exactly sure what her mission is within this game, but I made it 54 pages in, right there. And I'm DNFing this book. Oh, y'all. I am not a gamer girl. The last game that I played was probably a game on the Wii. And before that, it was probably Super Mario Brothers on a Nintendo, on a Super Nintendo? Nintendo Plus? What the fuck was it called? I think it was Super Nintendo. It's been so long since I played any sort of game. That Super Mario Brothers with little Yoshi was the last game I played, okay? I am not a gamer girl. So when I started reading this and she was talking about like NPCs and MPs, I had no fucking clue what she's talking about. I'm like, what does that mean? I had to ask my book coven what that meant because I had no clue. And so she's just walking around this world and she's talking about levels and coins that she's using. And she's like got a lot of coin in this world because she's been like on life support for so long that that's all she's done is played this game. And I really didn't, like nothing in the first, because I only made it to chapter 3, nothing in the first 3 chapters gave me any sort of inkling as to what her mission was. Like, what is the aim of this? Are you trying to do, because your body's dead, so you think. So, like, what's the purpose? What are you aiming to achieve here? No clue. And anytime she would talk about the logistics of being in this world, in this game, I felt my eyes glazing over, and I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care. So this is a lesson for me that I should have already learned by now, but this is just reinforcing it, that I need to stop buying books based on their cover, especially when I don't know what the first book is about, because I had picked it up based on buying the second book and reading the synopsis of the second book. And in the synopsis of the second book, there was no mention of this being like a video game or anything like that. So, and it sounded like there was like a romance in it. So that's what I was going off of. So I need to stop buying books that I don't know anything about the first book in the series and I just like the covers. Because look at these covers. They're super cute. But my brain was just not in this story. And my brain was just like, I don't care. So, with that, I am going to reap this book, and because I didn't enjoy the first book, I'm also going to be reaping the second book. So, with that, we are going to end this episode of Read or Reap. I do want to let you know that I added another book to the shelf. I got Shoestring Theory from a local bookstore that I visited. So this one's going to go on there from the synopsis that I read on this, because yes, I did read the synopsis. This feels like a gay fantasy romance, maybe a gay cozy fantasy, maybe. I don't know, but it had a cat on the cover, which I thought was really cute, and it's very shimmery. So I added that one. But let's, as a recap, go over the books that I read in this, or tried to read in this episode, and whether I decided to keep them or reap them. I did try to read Kiss of Steel by Beck McMaster. I DNF'd this. I will be reaping it. I did read the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and I think I'm going to keep this, even though it wasn't the most memorable of books. It is one that I picked up when I was in Egypt, so I think I'm going to keep it just for the memories for now. I DNF'd Elysium Girls, so I will be reaping this. I read Rhapsodic. I gave it 3 stars, I think, and I will be reaping this as well just because I wasn't invested in the story. I read King of Wrath, which I am keeping. I loved this book. So far, the only success that I've had in this series. I DNF'd Phantasma, so I will be reaping this as well. And I DNF'd In the Land of Liddell, so I will be reaping these 2 books as well. And then on top of that, I attempted to try and read a couple books that were outside of the random number generator that I also DNF'd. So really quickly, that was Aruna's Fate. This started to feel like a love triangle, and then I read reviews, and it is indeed A Love Triangle and I just don't want to read that, so this will be reaped as well from my collection. And I also tried to read Immortal Dark, and this is a school setting, like a boarding school setting type thing. I was bored out of my mind, so we're going to read this as well. So in this episode, I successfully read 3 books, completed 3 books, even if I didn't enjoy them all, and I had a lot of DNFs. Here is a visual representation of all the books that I got off of my shelf this month. It's a lot. I did DNF a lot, okay? But it is what it is. So any of the books that I did DNF, I will be putting for sale on my Pango. If you are interested, that is always linked in the description of my videos. And now I believe I am up to 118 books on this shelf. So that is where we will begin on my March TBR and where I will begin for the next episode of Reader Reap. So let me know down in the comments, have you read any of these books? What were your thoughts on them? Also give me a guess of like where you think we'll end episode 3. Like how many books do you think will be on this shelf by the end of episode 3 of Reader Reap? Let me know what you think. But if you don't want to comment that but would like to let me know you made it to the end of this episode, could you leave me a ring emoji for King of Wrath, because that had like an arranged marriage trope in it, and that was the one success of this episode. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and until my next video, good luck on clearing out your TBR shelf. Bye!